Get ready to transform how you communicate and market, not only in business, but in your life. This is Marketing Matters. For more information on today's show and other topics, visit RyanSowers.com. Here's your host, best-selling author and national speaker, Ryan Sowers.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another Marketing Matters with Ryan Sowers. I'm your host, and we are broadcasting live here on Business RadioX. On every episode of Marketing Matters, as you know, we talk business, branding, communications, customer service, and so much more. Let's start by asking you to support those who care for this show. Athens Orthopedics takes super care of patients in 13 locations. They're at AthensOrthopedicClinic.com, and the heart of what matters, helping people overcome grief one step at a time. And you can see them at the heart of whatmatters.com. But I am super excited today. We got two great guests in the studio. I'm going to get to in just a second. But as always, I've got my co-host, the one, the only, Jane Bishop, janebishop.live. How are you, Jane?
I'm doing great, Ryan. How are you today?
I'm great. Last time you told me, so I took off the coffee. I didn't do too much coffee.
Okay,
today.
no coffee. Okay,
no coffee.
Good.
Yeah. But enough about coffee. We have Greg Williams and Sabrina Blackston. Greg is general manager and Sabrina Blackston, location manager of Eternal Hills Funeral Home and Memory Gardens in Snellville, Georgia. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're so glad to have you guys here, and just you guys are great people. I know you as friends and colleagues, but introduce a little bit about yourself, and whoever wants to go first, just share a little bit about what you guys do and the weather, or Gwinnett, or Snellville, and let's just let our listeners get to know you a little bit better.
Well, I'll try to be the gentleman.
Okay, ladies first. That's right. You got it, Sabrina.
All right. I am Sabrina Blackston, location manager of Eternal Hills Funeral Home. Been at that location for probably about 6 or 7 years. I live in the Grayson, Georgia area. I am married, have a 1-year-old daughter.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We were talking about her running through the stores, right?
Yeah. And at Eternal Hills Funeral Home and Memory Gardens, we offer cremation, funeral, and burial services.
All right. Very good. Well, ladies first. Excellent job. Greg?
Greg Williams. I'm the general manager, again, at Eternal Hills Funeral Home and Memory Gardens. I've been in this business for almost 20 years now.
And you're still only 25.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny how
we
look that way.
That's right. I
yes.
hear you. Same thing, right?
I have been at this particular location at Eternal Hills for 12 years. Moved here from Texas.
What part?
Wichita Falls, Texas.
Wichita Falls, Texas. I have not been there.
It's just west of Dallas.
Okay.
Yes.
Not too far.
Okay.
So, again, like Sabrina said, we are a dignity memorial provider.
Okay.
We cover every aspect of the funeral and death care industry or business.
And we know, people go through life and they know there's a certain thing that happens at the end of life. And I know just from you, the great people and quality, and I'm giving you firsthand endorsement, you guys try to make that experience when life, well, I don't know how you say life well lived, when it comes to an end. Tell us about, you got to deal with families and relatives, and what's the goal, with what you guys are trying to do? To make it easy, to make it, I don't know if I don't try to put words in your mouth, but, when you're dealing with someone passing away, some people are probably well planned, some maybe not. Tell us a little bit about what you guys try to do to help.
Okay. To an extent, we try to make it easy for families, but we also try to make the family happy and do what they had envisioned. Most everybody has an envision, just like people plan weddings and things like that. Believe it or not, a lot of people plan funerals that same way.
Really? Okay.
So they have a vision in their mind.
Really?
Okay? And we try to make that vision come to the forefront.
Is that actually pretty common? More common than
relatively?
Not, interesting.
So, but the consumer these days is a whole lot more informed than they used to be. So we have to stay ahead of the curve and things like that, and give them all the options. A lot of families don't realize that there are so many options when it comes to burial or even cremation or anything like that. So we offer, a lot of people at our location say we offer one-stop shop. I know that's kind of an odd term, but it's true. You can do the burial, the service, the burial, and everything, and even the reception afterwards. Instead of going home, we can have a catered reception at our facility, and things like that. So we're owned by a larger corporation called Dignity Memorial.
Okay.
We have about 2,000 locations around the country, United States and Canada and in Puerto Rico also.
Wow.
That being said, that gives us a lot more resources to pull from and things like that, and we can help make families visions, I guess would be a good term, come true, from the simplest to the most elaborate.
Interesting.
Exactly. How do you, obviously that's a time, even when people have planned and have planned for how they want their celebration of life carried out, it's still highly emotional. So how do you work with or relate, let me use that word, with those involved in the planning to keep it in context? I guess I want to say there are a lot of people in your industry that would take advantage of that emotional setting, and for lack of a better word, try to sell more than what they want. So, give us insight into how you do business.
Well, what's most important for us is to treat people how we would want to be treated, how one of our family members would want to be treated. Obviously, that's probably the worst day of their lives, because although death is something that we're all going to face, we don't like to admit that. So even if someone has pre-planned their funeral services or their cremation or cemetery services, we treat them like they're truly our family. I tell every family that I'll treat you like you're my own. I'm going to walk you through this the same way I would walk my loved one through this. And it's comes from such a place of genuineness, sincerity, and that's just mainly our goal, just to treat them like if it was us sitting on the other side of the table, because at the end of the day, we are human. People forget, people think that because we're in this industry that we don't deal with loss personally in our lives, and sometimes our personal experiences do come into play, and sometimes that does help a family kind of build a level of comfort with us, break down that wall, that barrier that they may have.
Well, what I hear you say, Sabrina, is that really you're very keen and skilled on interpersonal relationship skills, and that is so vital in any business these days, but so missing in so many businesses. So how do you stay ahead of the curve? Greg, you said there's so many new things going on. How do you stay up with that?
Well, one of the things our company helps us do that a lot, but we try to stay with the current trends and things like that. We at Eternal Hills, we're going into, everybody likes to use their phone and be interactive and things like that. And so we're one of the few locations out there that actually have
we have a program called Remember When.
Yes.
Remember When.
Yes. That was like buying it.
Remember
You see,
When.
in the studio, you get to see the interaction. It's like me and my wife, like, I know, no, and she's like, it's Janet for the 80th time. Sabrina and Greg is just like us having lunch. I'm like, I can't remember anything. That was really good.
That's why we work so well together.
You're like a comedy show. I enjoyed that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So Remember When is awesome. You want to kind of go into it a little bit more? You use it more than I do.
I do. So traditionally, most funerals or visitations will have like a photo montage that's playing on the TV. That's a little bit old and antiquated. So Remember When it's interactive now. So we actually have a code that displays on the television screen. Attendees of the service can simply go to the website, enter the code, and send a message of condolence, send a photo right from their phone, and it shows in real time.
Oh.
Wow. That's cool.
That's awesome.
Not that I'd be qualified to do it, but for people,
it's super simple. You can do it, Ryan.
Okay, well, good. That's good. Well, tell us now, how long is the cemetery's been there? What, 50 years?
Over
Snellville?
50 years. Yeah.
All right, so tell us, and you've been serving the community for, was it 25 years?
Yeah, a lot of people, unfortunately, don't know that the funeral home has been there for almost 25 years now. We were built in 1996. Okay. The cemetery, we're thinking around 50 years. There's not a whole lot of records back that far, so we don't know the exact date, unfortunately. But it was privately owned, purchased by our company, and everything. But we've been serving the Snellville and area for quite some time.
You guys do an absolutely tremendous job, and I was asking you guys not too long ago. I know we'll get to later cremation and burials and this and that, but you guys have added a new burial garden. Yes. So tell us a little bit about that.
We opened a new burial garden. It's called Cypress Garden. The burial aspect of it is just very similar to any of the other gardens you see out there. The difference is we offer upright monuments and the flat grass, what are called grass markers. So the flat ones which are granite with bronze on top. And then on the next phase of that is just almost complete. It is our cremation estates. So we offer, because we see the trend. Cremation.
You were saying
cremation numbers are rising.
Rising, yeah.
But a lot of people don't know when after a cremation occurs, you don't have to take them home. And a lot of
this
people
is
don't
big.
like
This is
that.
important. Yeah, I want to go in that because you told me.
Right.
I was telling my wife about this. So because you're thinking about you got to take these ashes home. I mean, this is what we're talking about. But tell them what the option is.
Well, in this cremation estate, the Cypress cremation estates, they have the option of placing those cremated remains in niches, which is like a mausoleum for cremated remains only. There's the option of having them in a personal or a private columbarium, which will hold either 2 or 4 sets of cremated remains. There's benches out there, very nice park benches made of granite, which you can place at least up to 4 sets of cremated remains in. There are what are called memorial posts, which are really granite markers or monuments that are smaller, but underneath there's a place to place your cremated remains in, and then have the top engraved and everything. So
When we were talking about this, tell me if I'm saying this right, Greg and Sabrina, but I was telling my wife about the trends when we were talking not too long ago, and she said that makes sense, and I was saying I hadn't thought about this, and she said, but it would give people a place to go, not at their home, to go see the cremated. I mean, you're going to make a visitation, correct? Mm-hmm. So I mean, the experience to go see or pay love to someone's passed can still be done, but done in a different way. Am I saying that right?
That's correct.
That's correct.
So that's a brilliant thing. And because now, is this I want to make sure we talk about your ribbon cutting. Is that what the ribbon cutting is for? Okay, now tell us when that is. That's coming up not too long from now.
It will be at 11 a.m. On January the 15th, 2020.
2020,
Yes.
new decade.
They will have, a lot of local
City officials.
There we go, out there and things like that. We want to make this a big deal for everybody, and we want to invite everybody, all the listeners out there, to come and see.
I'll be there as long as I'm not in Las Vegas.
I'll be there. There you go. Just to come to see what we have to offer and things like that. Some people think it's weird that we're inviting them to a cemetery, but we're proud of this, and I think it's going to be really, really a groundbreaking, no pun intended, experience.
That's good. But in all seriousness, when we think about our lives in today's world, everybody's so busy running on their phone, doing all this. But we all, somewhere in the back of our mind, know there's, my dad used to say this was true. There's a dash between the dates of your life.
Exactly.
This is, he says he's a story. I'll never forget. It's like the dash is your life, and great story. And he talks about faith and how that's the life. We don't know what the end date is, right? And so I think sometimes some of my experiences where I used to work, I would drive by a local. You'd see people lived in their life. They have that marker, however it is, and it's like, what I do with my life really matters. I mean, and it's only so short. And it's just and we all know that intellectually. But y'all's business is so important because you got to deal with the loved ones, whether it's planned or unplanned. I mean, it's still emotion involved, I'm sure. But this is something everybody deals with. This isn't like this is something everybody deals with, and whether you want to or not, right? So you say, well, why would this be on a marketing show? Well, at the end of the day, you've got to. Somebody is going to make decisions for you if you haven't done it, and then you have a choice of how to do that. So tell us a little bit about pre-planning. I mean, is that something you'd be recommending to our listeners?
Absolutely. Pre-planning is super, super important. I can't stress it enough. A lot of people think because they have life insurance that they don't need to pre-plan their funeral arrangements, and that is such a huge misconception. One of the greatest benefits of pre-planning is it is inflation proof. You get to lock in today's cost.
Oh.
So if you die 40 years from now, you're still paying today's prices. And with the way inflation is steadily increasing, that's a huge savings.
Even as we're sitting here.
Exactly.
Right.
Absolutely. Yep. And when someone hasn't pre-planned their arrangements and they're faced with this situation, they have to come into the funeral home and meet with one of us. There's about 126 questions that they have to answer. And 2 of those questions are questions that never get answered. And it is, what would they have wanted? Did I do the right thing? And by pre-planning your funeral arrangements, you get to eliminate the guesswork.
Yeah.
Those questions, they're not going to linger in your mind. You're not going to wonder what they wanted. I sit at the table with so many families who, well, no, mom said she wanted to be cremated. No, mom wanted to be buried. And then they battle back and forth with that.
So it even, I don't want to control it, even more stress to our, a tough event, a tough life event, because no one even knows if they're doing what they personally want.
Right.
Well, let's go to the other piece of that. So what happens for the people that do pre-plan, let's say early in life, 30s, 40s, early in life, and then as they get older, they decide to change their plan. Is that possible?
Absolutely. At Dignity Memorial Provider locations, our family service advisors, they're the individuals that take care of pre-planning. They often do file reviews. They keep in continuous contact with the families who have pre-arrangements. They let them know if there is things that are missing. They let them know new options. They give them the opportunity to make adjustments.
Okay, great. So in this business, I would imagine that there are some business principles or business practices that could really be transferred to any business, like the interpersonal relationship skills. What else might come to mind from both of your experiences that could relate to any business?
Honesty and integrity. We are upfront with all our families. If in the cemetery there's a problem or something like that, everything stops right then. We contact that family, let them know exactly what's going on, and they advise us which direction to go and things like that. Because a lot of those, we just talked about it. Those graves have been out there 50 years. We're very close to Stone Mountain, and sometimes we discover part of Stone Mountain under the ground.
Yes.
Right? So in cases like that, then we stop. We have the family involved and things like that, so that they can help us make those decisions, and we can move on together and things like that. So
we and that's why it's so important, because you guys exude honesty, integrity. I mean, I can vouch for that. Secondly, communications. This is a marketing communication show, so communicating in real time to get the people involved and not try to make some executive decision. I mean, because, to me, that's the biggest failure what businesses do. If they don't communicate with their audience, they just say something like, we've all laughed about this before. Yes, no. Yes to what? No to what? And so by getting that involvement, I people probably walk away saying, this is even if you're trying to prepare for it, a tough time in your life. And y'all's job, I'm assuming, is you look at it as make it as best as it can be. I won't say experience, but I mean, it is what it is. And you're trying to, I don't know what what do you guys say is the life well lived?
Life well celebrated.
Well, life well celebrated.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yes.
Because we all have that dash,
Absolutely.
it's true.
So, all right. So January 15, 2020, that's Snellville, Georgia, 11 a.m., and that's going to be in the Cypress Garden, right?
Yes,
Correct.
that's 3700 Stone Mountain Highway.
Okay.
37 in the Cypress Garden, but communities invited?
Oh,
Absolutely.
most definitely.
Okay. So, we're going to have so many people listen right now and so many people listen later. So, we'll get you. Well, by the way, before I do it, let's do real quick. What is the best website? Is it the EternalHillsFuneralHome.com?
That's correct.
Okay. So that I assume would have street address and people don't remember or whatever.
Yes.
EternalHillsFuneralHome.com is the best way to connect.
Our listeners always like to get a little inside scoop. So how did each of you get involved in this business? Let's talk.
Good question.
Let's
There you
talk
go.
story a moment.
Yeah, good job, Jane.
I
That's
get
good.
that question probably 3 times
Yeah.
a week.
How'd you
Oh,
end
yeah.
up? Yeah, it's funny. I'd love to know.
It's very interesting because I'm always asked that question because people always say that I don't look like a funeral director.
Oh,
So-
whatever that
What
means.
is a funeral
Yeah,
director?
whatever
You're
that
supposed to
means.
be like walking around all mad and
Right.
being, angry at the world.
And so a lot of people think that funeral directors, there's lots of common misconceptions about us and what we do and the type of people that we are. So when people find out that I'm a funeral director, the question always follows, why? What made you do that? Why do you want to do that? Why are you so weird?
That's awesome.
We all get it.
That's
We all
what
get
they're
it.
that's what they're
It's funny.
thinking, whether
It's
they
funny.
say it or
Right.
not.
I
Yes.
never thought about it, yeah.
Just like they think that we sleep in caskets. They think that we sleep
Vampire.
in black suits. Right?
Yeah.
They think we don't laugh, that you're not allowed to laugh.
Yeah.
at the
Right,
funeral
we're
home.
cold all the
Yeah.
time. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. I simply have to say that I was born for this. That's the only way that I can explain it, because you don't just wake up and say, you know what, I'm going to be a funeral director today. I'm going to be an embalmer today. You have to be a special person that God anointed with the ability to get people through what is probably the worst time of their lives. So that's the only way that I can answer it. I've wanted to be in this industry since I was 6 years old.
Wow.
I don't really come from a family-owned firm or anything like that. That's another reason why I feel like it's just innate. I was just born to do this.
That's
How about
awesome.
that?
How about you, Greg?
Well, I used to be one of those people that thought that funeral directors were odd and weird. Actually went to high school with a girl that's all she ever talked about was becoming a funeral director. I thought that was the weirdest thing in the world.
And here you are.
And now she's not in it. I am.
And now
but-
she's smiling.
Yes, but my dad was in the sales end of this business for many years, and for 7 or 8 years bugged me consistently, saying, you would be great at this, you need to do this. So finally I just got tired of hearing it. So I said, set it up. So spent the couple of evenings in a prep room at a local funeral home. Just loved it. Loved helping people, loved being able to make people happy, really, in a hard time like this, or when they're facing a hard time. Believe it or not, we can make people happy by honoring their loved ones the way they should be.
Absolutely.
So I love it. I've been doing it for, like I said earlier, almost 20 years.
That's
now,
awesome. Well, what I hear from both of you is that you, from different perspectives, you really are aligned with who you are.
Right.
And you are doing and you're investing in a business that is true to your core values and the core of who you are. And that is so key. Don't you find that, Ryan, for growth, for effectiveness, for sustainability even. And it does make a difference.
It makes a big difference. And, you guys, as you were sitting there talking about it, I was thinking, just based on all our conversations over the years, but you guys both are calm, you're friendly, you're caring people. So whether you were, working at a hotel or you want to take care of people.
Right.
I've seen that's, your spirit, I can just feel people's spirit,
Sure.
and I just know, because you just don't take, you look at the small stuff in life and don't fret it. You kind of can tease yourself like I tease, we've always just had that. Mm-hmm. And so I can, even though I haven't seen firsthand inside you working with somebody, I can just see you making a huge difference in someone's life. And like you said, Sabrina, it doesn't matter how or you plan it out. None of us have a crystal ball, and even the best planned out thing that we recommend is still one of the hardest things anyone's ever going to face.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And so what you want is somebody to, like you said, I love that in the beginning, you're going to treat them like they're your own family. And I know you guys do. I mean, that's in your heart. I mean, Jane does some of the stuff that's in her heart. You can't fake that. I mean, it's either there or it's not, or you wouldn't be continuing to stay in this business.
Right.
And, so I think that looking at these trends of what's happening, you're so really, we're looking at some trends now that cremation of loved ones is starting to, which surprised me, is starting to become more, what's the word, more mainstream or more a higher percentage. Am I saying that right?
Absolutely.
And I think I asked you guys, I didn't know that, and it's going that way possibly, and things have changed in certain churches and different things like
Correct.
that, right? And I think the average listener just doesn't know. I mean, I didn't know. And so I always like to make sure if I don't know that they know these things. So tell us a little bit about that trend, and then, again, we'll tie in a few more things and then wrap it up here in a few minutes.
Well, the national trend for cremation is on the rise. Depends on the state and things like that. Now, Florida is really high. It also depends on the area. The Atlanta area is different, too. Our cremation rate at Eternal Hills in the Gwinnett County area is not as high as it is in the middle of Atlanta.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
it's just a different kind of people.
Different people.
We're a transitional society all the time now. So a lot of people do it for convenience and things like that. But there's still the folks out there that don't know that you can have a cremation, but you can do that after you have a traditional service with a visitation and things like that.
See, that's what I wanted to know.
Exactly.
See, a lot of people would say, well, so I guess we can't have the visitation. Well, that's
you can do that.
That's where you're talking about customizing it to your.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure everybody chooses to maybe a little bit different. Not everybody, but I'm sure there's a lot of tweaks that you can put in. So you could have a viewing and visitation and then still choose cremation.
Right.
So I didn't know that.
Absolutely.
That was my brother's wish. I have two brothers and lost one a few years ago, and that was his wish because he knew it would be important to the family to have that visual closure.
Exactly.
But then his desire
Did not know.
was to be cremated. you know, after the service.
So I didn't even thought about that part. About pre-planning. So I mean, you're educating our listeners, and this is important stuff. And I can't say enough. Let me say something real quick before. So for our audience, as a reminder, you can listen to our live broadcast on the 2nd and 4th Thursdays of each month, 1 o'clock Eastern, by visiting businessradiox.com, selecting the Gwinnett Studio, and then clicking on the Listen Live button. If you can't join us live, listen to this show and past shows easily 24/7. Simply go to businessradiox.com, select the Gwinnett Studio, and then click on Marketing Matters. If you're just joining us, we've got Greg Williams, General Manager, and Sabrina Blackston, location manager of Eternal Hills Funeral Home and Memory Gardens in Snellville, Georgia. Two great people in the studio, and we have just a few minutes left. So tell people again, you know, anything you want to share with them that you get asked over and over and over, and you just say, hey, you know, you the pre-planning I think was one of them, but just stress the importance of thinking about this and not putting it off. What do you want to tell people that ask you those same 3 questions that, over and over, that you want to tell our big audience today?
Death is inevitable. We're all going to face it one day or another. We don't know when that day will come. What will help us get through that is by being prepared. And
I'm sure it is probably less stressful for the family, or whoever's involved when these decisions have been made, because they already got enough to deal with.
Absolutely. You can make clearer decisions when you're doing things ahead of time.
And emotions aren't as high.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Well,
and you can make your own decisions. And so your families, you don't leave that decision for your family. You make your own. You pick what you want.
So do they make those decisions with you guys, so you have the plans, even if or does the family have the plans, or does it depend?
Both.
Okay.
Both. Yeah.
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. So as before we close, both of you have brought up the invitation both in our pre-conversation and today about the importance of asking questions. So what would be one final word that you could share with our listeners about the importance of asking questions, and perhaps how you try to set the context to encourage those questions when you meet with the family?
My big thing is ask all the questions when you're calling a facility or something like that, because sometimes you get a number that only includes one thing. So you got to ask all those questions. What does that include? What does this do for me? How does this help me? And things like that. If you don't know that information, you can't have that, or if you don't have that information, you can't move forward properly and informed to make that informed decision.
Okay. And I want to add one thing.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say, I don't know what to do. Because if you're contacting a funeral home that really truly cares about you, they're going to guide you. They're going to let you know all of your options.
I love that. Because I know with Jane, with all the coaching she does of business professionals and whatever, some people say, I don't even know what I need. But I would assume, Jamie, you would have started asking questions.
Absolutely.
And I know when people call me with Magazine Zone or this or that, say, we want this. I'm like, well, what is it you're trying to do, right? And then I take them through step 1 through step 80, but I'd never assume that somebody, right. And there's really, I hate to say it, but people always say this is wrong, but there is no such thing as a silly question. I mean, if they don't know, I don't know. So I think I recommend to our listeners, they come talk to you guys and get educated, because I'm sure you're you're in the business of educating people.
Absolutely.
Right?
Every day.
So I think that's so important. All right. So best email, I'll give you the street address again, 3594 Stone Mountain Highway, Snellville, Georgia. That's Eternal Hills Funeral Home and Memory Gardens, and email eternalhillsfuneralhome.com. So glad to have our special guest, Greg Williams and Sabrina Blackston, on the show. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you for the service that you're offering to the community and the family.
Thank you.
Well,
You're making a difference, and it's not strange. It's actually really, you kind of felt the spirit here today, and it's very important.
Well, it's truly an honor for us to be able to serve these families.
Well, it's important. It's part of life, as you said, and even right now, I'm sitting and thinking of like all the planning that I haven't even thought of, and but it's part of life, and y'all are making a difference. I've seen it firsthand with my own eyes, and I want our audience to know that too.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Marketing Matters with Ryan Sowers here on Business Radio X. So please support those who care for this show. Athens Orthopedics takes care of patients in 13 locations. Go to AthensOrthopedicClinic.com. And the Heart of What Matters, helping people overcome grief one step at a time. You can visit them at theheartofwhatmatters.com. Thanks to our guests, Greg and Sabrina, and our studio for making today a great show. For my co-host, Jane Bishop, janebishop.live. Jane, thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
This is Ryan Sowers. You've been listening to Marketing Matters with Ryan Sowers. Until next time, folks, make your marketing matter.